four corners of the galley. I'm your host PBO, and you're joining me on a brand new show that we got created. This is Westworld. What the bleep? Here's a little intro. On this show, we're going to help you try to understand the whole meaning behind Westworld. This is a recap review of Season 1 Westworld. We're going to do a breakdown, basically, of all the different intricacies that happen in Westworld and try to help you understand it and get ready for Season 2. So, the question is, what is Westworld? Westworld. Well, Westworld is a theme park in the future that takes you back to the Old West and lets you play like cowboys. And not just like in a game, but in reality, where you get to roam around this park as a person dressed up like a cowboy. And the beauty behind it all is this whole thing is filled with hosts. What are hosts, you ask? Well, hosts are super intelligent, artificial intelligence that are made to look like humans, kind of like AI. It's kind of got this iRobot, but more realistic look to them, so they look and feel like humans. But they do have rules in place, and the rules in place that have for them are they cannot hurt a human, but they can hurt another guest. Also, a human cannot hurt another human, but a human can hurt another host. So it's this giant theme park where you get to just run wild and let your heart's desire. You get to come in as a bad guy or as a good guy, run around the park, and have as much fun. The way it's designed is, in the center of the park is the safest part of the park, and that's where most people stay and kind of have their things. The farther and farther out you go, the wilder and wilder it gets. And people go on all kinds of adventures. They got riverboat themes, they got cowboys and Indians, they got chasing after gold, you can rob a train. I mean, you can basically do anything you can think of in the Old West. That's your heart desire, you get to do it in this theme park. So what's currently going on in Westworld right now? Well, in the current timeline, we'll get back to that later, there's some issues happening. Basically, there's some hosts starting to act out of character. A new line of code was implemented into certain hosts, and now the hosts are starting to act out of character and get off their loops. What's a loop, you ask? Well, a loop is designed that each host or character inside of the park basically is placed on a loop where they do a daily function around their town or something that they constantly stay on. The loop is either daily or sometimes it's weekly. They have daily loops where they do their daily functions, and then they have bigger picture loops where they do more things on certain days, just like any regular human being. The park is almost designed in the way that it kind of mimics a human being's life, where we work a job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, we're on our job loop. And then on the weekends, based on what we got going on, kids or family or different events, we get to go on our fun loop. So it's kind of the same theme, but just in place, designed with high intelligence. So why are they acting out? Well, the creator of the park, Dr. Ford, played by Sir Anthony Hopkins, has added a new line of code into these hosts that's kind of giving them memories, what they call reveries. And it's basically starting to change their self-conscious inside of these robotic brains that are designed to be on loops. And we all know how bad it is when we give AI memories. I mean, check this out right here.
The other day at the station, you said you had dreams. What is it that you dream?
See? It's never a good idea. And then you know what's coming next right after that. I hope you do, because I got it right here for you. No memories for AI. So right now, there's about 30 hosts in the park that are infected with this reveries, memories, and they're starting to act out of their loops and go off script and start to do weird and wild things. In episode 1, you have a gentleman who basically pours milk all over everybody. So all the hosts are starting to act out, and now the AI is starting to become self-aware and self-conscious of what's going on around them. Whew, never a good thing. So now after all these reveries and memories are starting to take place, well, the board is getting real fickle and upset because now these hosts are starting acting out and they're messing up the timeline. So in this real cool way, they show you in episode 1 how they kind of clear out the host. They bring in basically Hector the cleaner, and he comes in and basically starts gunning down the town and just takes all the hosts out one by one, and that's one way of getting rid of the hosts off the board, because when the hosts come off the board, they get sent to a different area and they get fixed up, and this is their way for them to connect the code. At the same time that all this is happening, the board is unhappy with the action that Ford is doing, and they're trying to find ways to creatively push him out. So now you have a bigger story overall on what's going on. You have these AI robots acting up, and the board who controls it is trying to push out the creator of the whole park because they don't feel like he's up to stuff anymore and can't handle the thing. That's a lot going on. Alright, well, let's meet all the characters and players that take place in this show. So, let's go to that now.
Alright, everybody, let's play. Let's meet the characters of Westworld.
Alright, let's go. Alright. So, character number 1, the main character we're following, Dolores. Dolores is the host number 1. She is the first host ever made. She is the main story that we follow and the main loop that we follow throughout the whole time. We watch Dolores' loop. We watch her father get killed. We basically watch everything about Dolores. She's the main character, and she's the one that we follow. She's also the key and got a bigger part to this that we'll get to a little later, but that's just a basic description. Next, we got Maeve. Maeve is the leader of the bar wenches, basically, and she's the controller of them. And she's experiencing some very crazy memories that she didn't know she had. So throughout this whole time, Maeve is just doing her thing, and she's playing her part, but all of a sudden she starts to have memories of her past loops and her past life that she once lived. She starts remembering that she had a daughter. She starts remembering all this stuff, and at the same time, Maeve is becoming awoke. Maeve is starting to wake up when she shouldn't be waking up. Maeve is waking up in the facility on the outside of the park where all the other stuff goes on. So there's way more to that story. We'll get to that. Next, we got Bernard. He's the basically the right arm of Dr. Ford, and he's the one who basically handles all the different things. He's having a conversation with Dolores on a daily basis. He's also kind of oversees all the daily functions of the park that Mr. Ford can't handle. He kind of like Mr. Fix-It does it all. He's been around for a long time, about the same amount of time as Ford. Tragically, he's also lost a child and has, I don't know if it's an ex-wife, but a wife. More of that coming. Then there's Teddy. Teddy is a host. When you first meet him, they try to trick you and make you think that Teddy's not a host, but then they show you in the first episode that he is a host because he comes back in the same train in the same place. Teddy is connected to Dolores at all times. He plays a way bigger part down the line, but Teddy is always with Dolores, and that's his main function. He's one of the main hosts. Then we got the Man in Black. So the Man in Black, we first meet him, he's doing some very bad things to Dolores, and Man in Black has been going to this park for over 30 years, and his main objective is to find this maze. He's looking for this mystical maze that supposedly takes place in Westworld that's deeper. It's a deeper maze in the park that he's looking for. That's his main mission. So that's what we're learning about the Man in Black. Then we got Dr. Ford, the co-creator of this world. The one who basically created everything. Something he's done has caused some issues, and also the board is trying to push him out because he feels like he's past the hill and doesn't know how to run this park anymore. Then we got William. We first meet William in episode 2. This is William's first time in the park, and he's in the park with his brother-in-law Logan, and they're in the park, and you find out there's a deeper story to them, and he meets up with Dolores about episode 4, and William is just experiencing everything for the first time. He's the man in the white hat, the good guy that's trying to just do right and enjoy the park. Along with William, you get Logan. Logan is the brother-in-law of William, and he's been to this park many, many times, and he loves it here. He's trying to show a good time to his new brother-in-law and experience this whole thing, and they both have deeper meanings for what they're going to see. We'll get to that in a little bit. Then we got Teresa. Teresa is actually the director of the whole park. She kind of has to run things by Ford, but she's the one who makes sure that she oversees the day-to-day operation on everything that's going on inside the park, and is also having a relationship with Bernard. So, more to come for that. Then we have Charlotte. Charlotte is the executive director of Delios, which is the board that runs the entire park. She comes in later into the story and has a bigger game to play towards the end. Then we have Elsa, the behavior tech. Elsa is the behavior tech that's starting to notice all these weird patterns with the host and how they're acting weird, and she starts investigating way more deeper into what's going on and starts discovering some very fishy things that happen inside of the park that people are causing. We'll get to that. We got Stubbs. Stubbs is a security guard. He kind of visits all the different security parts. He goes on Elsa with a mission, and they kind of go look for different people. He kind of makes sure everybody keeps everybody in line. He's funny. I like his character. Then we have Sylvester and Felix. Sylvester and Felix are the two characters that we meet in the tech area where Maeve befriends them. And they get wrapped up in a crazy, wild story with Maeve, which we will get to. And then there's the mysterious Arnold. Arnold is the co-creator of the park that no one knows anything about. Lots of mysterious stuff is about him.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the characters of Westworld.
Alright, now that you got your overview, let's dig a little deeper into Westworld. And what is Westworld all about? Well, this show is designed to confuse you. They are purposely trying to trick you and deceive you in ways so that you do not understand or only feel that there's only one timeline going on. They're there to misdirect you, make you not see things, make you see something that you did think you saw or didn't see. I mean, this show is designed to get inside of your brain. One great thing about Jonathan Nolan, he's an amazing writer and producer of this show, and he makes sure that he digs deep inside of the self-conscious of the human being and really tries to look inside of your own mind and make you feel like, what would you do in these situations? I mean, this is the whole thing about it. Think I'm lying? Check it out right here.
What's going on here?
Check it out. Preparing for Westworld season 1, you know, I'm getting ready. Got my stuff going, got my lab coat, got my coffee, I'm ready to go.
It looks complicated.
Yeah, well, take a seat. Let me break it down for you. Come on, it's gonna be fun. Alright. Let me show you how this all works. So, season 1. It's all about the creator, Ford. Yeah. So, this is when you really get deep. Then you got Bernard. I don't know who Bernard really is. He could be somebody with anything. I don't know, Finkel, Einhorn, you know, who knows, Maze. Everything's going on. It's getting real deep. Everything's moving real fast. You gotta check it out real quick. The key is the maze. It's all about the maze. I mean, this is what it's all about. The maze is the main focus. You paying attention to what? Hey, come on. Well, you're focusing on what? The maze. You gotta focus on the maze. The maze is the key. It takes you to where you need to go.
Yeah, the maze. Yeah.
So, do you get it? Any questions?
I think I do. Just one question. What the hell is this?
Oh, that's when it gets real crazy.
I don't know what he's talking about.
These violent delights have a violin in. These violent delights have a violin in. These violent delights have a violin. That was just a little fun board that I like to put together. So let's really dig into these timelines. This is where you really got to pay attention. There are multiple timelines going on in this show. That's what the show's whole built about. It's multiple timelines. There's a present day. There's a 30 years ago. There's also a Bernard and Dolores timeline where they're having their own special little meetings. And then there's a memory timeline that goes about 35 years. And we'll get to that one last. So let's get into the present day timeline, because that's the main timeline where a lot of the main characters are in. All right. So in the main timeline, the current day timeline, this is where basically all of the big problems are happening. So you have these hosts now, about 30 hosts, and it's probably even bigger than that because they start to show there's issues. These hosts are having memories of their past loops and lives that they lived and things that they've done with, and now they're having to deal with that. So you have hosts going off script, just going off and doing different things. They have behavior issues, going out looking for things. Dr. Ford at this point, he's started kind of his own new story and narrative. He's starting up a new narrative that he's designing on his own, one that he says is going to bring back the original. So he starts to create his own narrative, but at the same time they have this person named Lee, and Lee is like the writer for the whole thing, and he's creating a brand new story and theme for the park called Odyssey on the Red River. And he takes all this time to put all this energy into this theme, and Ford just completely shuts it down and tells him no right off the back after he gave all this stuff, and says, don't worry, and they're like freaking out. Teresa starts freaking out because she doesn't understand what's going on. He's like, don't worry, I'm making my own new story. But what he's really doing is he's digging up the old original town from the beginning of when this park first opened. This is an area that's been underground and shut down for a very long time. He's reopening this up. At the same time he's reopening this up, he meets with Dolores and Teddy separately, and all of a sudden whispers in their ears. He whispers in Teddy's ear and gives Teddy a backstory that he's never had, and he whispers and he talks to Dolores and gives Dolores some other code. And part of his whole grand scheme and thing he's doing is a brand new Dolores and Teddy timeline that we're going to follow that we'll get to. But that's what Ford's doing. He's setting up a brand new narrative. At the same time, he's getting pushed out. So the company that's running is this whole part, Delios, they're freaking out because things are going wrong. The hosts are going off script. There's big time issues. Things are not going the way they are. Lee is under a ton of pressure, and he basically kind of gets all drunk and gets sent off to the side. Teresa's freaking out the whole time because she doesn't understand what's going on. And then at one point, Ford brings her into the park and kind of manipulates her and brings her to this area like Ford knows all. Takes her back to this one restaurant that she went to as a kid, like he knows everything, and is basically trying to explain to her like, look, I got this. You just need to relax. I'm gonna make sure that this new story is okay, and we're gonna move forward with the thing. So that's part of what's going on. So then you got this. So Teresa's got these issues. So Elsie, who is the behavior tech, she starts to discover that she starts tracking down all these different hosts that have all these issues. She starts to discover that there's a deeper thing going on with these hosts. She discovers some weird stuff. One of the hosts is putting some astrological signals into putting astronomy signals into a rock, drawing things in the ground. Other hosts are bashing his own brains in, and then she finds in one of the hosts that a signal is being sent out to a different area. She sees that this signal is sending out information about the host and sending out code to somebody else. She tracks it down, finds this area that is getting tracked to, and sees that Teresa is the one that supposedly is taking this information and sending it out. She ends up getting kind of taken at the end of one of the episodes, and you don't really know what happens to her at the end. We'll get to what happens to her at the end later, but she gets taken away. At the same time, Stubbs, he's kind of going around and helping out and making sure everything's going. He goes with Elsa on a couple of missions where they, talk about life and stuff and different things. But he's just making sure security's good and everything's fine. He doesn't really have that big of a thing. It's not like. Then you got Charlotte. She shows up midway through the show, well, a little less than midway through the show, and you find out she's the executive director of the whole corporation that runs this park, and she is trying to get everything online. She's tired of Ford and all his nonsense. She's trying to make sure the park is good and running and that things are going forward. She starts doing behind the back deals. She meets with Teresa and tells Teresa that she wants to figure out a way to take basically the most valuable thing in the park, which is the 35 years of information that's stored within these hosts, and she wants to take all this code and get it out of the park. So she devises a plan with Teresa where she puts a tracking beacon in one of the old hosts. She puts the information in a memory card in one of the old hosts, and they put it in actually Abernathy, who is one of the old characters that plays Dolores' father. She goes and puts the information in there to sneak this host on a train and get all the information out, because she doesn't trust Ford and what Ford's doing and things of that nature. It gets so bad that she ends up at the park at one point and meets up with the Man in Black, which you find out the Man in Black is actually corporate, which we'll get to that in a second, and asks for his vote to kick Ford out because she's so tired of his nonsense. So that's kind of where we leave it with Charlotte, because I will get to the end at the end. So then we have the big players in the regular one. We have Maeve. So Maeve, played by Thado Newton, is just amazing in this. She is the lead lady, bar wench lady that controls all the ones. I can't figure out the name for some reason. And she's the one who's having these reveries and memories come back full. So she starts having all these memories and reveries of her past life. She even starts to remember all the different times she's been killed and who's killed her. She remembers that she has a daughter, and she's obsessed with finding this daughter that she thinks that she has. So she starts to wake up behind the scenes and meets two characters, Sylvester and Felix, who are actually technicians who repair all the different bodies of the host. So when a host gets killed, when he gets shot, killed, or whatever happens to him, their body gets taken away, taken to the facility in the back. They take the bullet stuff out, they clean up the bodies, they refix them, they clean them, they make them look pretty again. They make to check sure all the diagnostics are good, and then in the morning they put them back in their place that they start in their loop, and they start their day off like normal all the time. But that's what these two guys do. So she starts to wake up And she starts to convince Sylvester and Felix. Well, what she really does is she convinces Felix, and she starts befriending Felix, and they start building this relationship and bond where she starts convincing him to manipulate her settings so that she's smarter, that she understands more aggressive. She's trying to figure a way out. She's basically trying to figure a way out of this whole thing. She doesn't understand why she's there, and she wants to leave. She is the one that's being fully awoken in this whole thing. She has a bigger part at the end we'll talk about, but basically she's working with Felix now, and her whole goal is to build an army to take out the humans and to get out of this park and become free. I mean, that is her whole goal. That is what she wants to do. She is now awoke, she's self-conscious, and now she wants to get out of this park. At the same time, we meet the Man in Black. Well, the Man in Black is on a mission. He's on a quest to find this maze that's supposedly at some part of the park that was set up and designed by Arnold, the actual co-creator of this park. I'll get to Arnold in a little bit, but the Man in Black, he's on this mission. The Man in Black's been coming here for 30 years, but he's actually spent some time away. And what we come to find out is that his wife passed away a year ago, and that kind of like re-kicked him to go back to this park and really search for this maze, this one thing that he's never found, and that's what his whole mission is. So his whole goal in this thing is to find this maze. He starts interacting with all the different hosts throughout the thing, but he's only got one goal, and that's to get back to the center to get to the end of this maze. So we'll get to him. Dolores. Dolores is the main character. Now this is where it gets tricky. So Dolores in the current time is retracing her steps from two different times. So Dolores in current time is fully awoken, but each time that she gets awakened or she figures things out, she kind of gets reset. But then she is reawoken again when these new codes and reveries and memories are put back. And because she's host number one and has been around from the start, she pretty much knows everything. I mean, that's just the key. And what she's doing in the current time is she's actually retracing her steps from 30 years ago and 35 years ago. And I'll talk about what steps she's taking in the 30 years ago timeline, because that's where the bigger stuff is. But this is where all the deception and the clothes and the different things you kind of need to see. They leave lots of hints and markers throughout the season that truly try to help you out. And one of the biggest things is checking out the clothes, or seeing that if she's talking to two of herselves, that maybe she's starting to dream or remember things that happened from the past. So that's the main thing that's going on with her. All right, the 30 years ago timeline. So this is the main big timeline that basically the Dolores is remembering. But this is the timeline that William and Logan are on. So this starts off in episode 2, and this is when we meet William and Logan. William is there on his first time. William is the brother-in-law of Logan. He's there on his first time. He's marrying his Logan's sister, and he's taking him to this park, kind of like a get out thing. That's what you think at the beginning. So they get into the park. They're kind of mulling around, seeing the different stuff, and Logan's just doing the normal thing, drinking and having sex with all the hosts and having a good old time. And then they're just kind of like farting around the park, and then all of a sudden, William kind of meets one of the hosts and then gets put on an adventure. So William starts to take him on an adventure. As they go on this adventure, Dolores stumbles across them on this adventure on the first night they're going out. Now, they do meet Dolores before this. They meet Dolores in the classic way that everybody meets Dolores. She's in the middle of the Sweetwater town, and she drops a can, and William picks it up and is infatuated from the first start, because that's the design behind Dolores. You're infatuated. She's the girl next door, the perfect one. So he kind of falls for her, doesn't think nothing, leaves it alone, but then when she falls back into his lap, this is when he's happy. So this is what they do. In episode 3, they show you current Dolores and 30 years ago Dolores wearing the exact same outfit, and they show you just the actions of 30 years ago Dolores, where she falls into William's hands, and she's there, and now she's gonna go on this adventure. Where they don't show you current Dolores, where she just retraces her steps and sees that that's where she re-met William and camped out that night. So this is kind of where they pull the bait and switch. This is where they're running simultaneously same timelines and doing the exact same thing. And what you don't know is you're watching Dolores take William on this what she's remembering from 5 years ago, which is the adventure of the maze, which is she's retracing her steps when she took on the challenge of the maze that Arnold sent her on 5 years before this. So she is now taking basically William and Logan on this kind of like they're going all together on this adventure, and she's kind of semi-guiding. Well, she's not really guiding them, but she's starting to follow the steps that they're on this adventure together. So they're hanging out, and William starts falling in love with Dolores, obviously, and falling for her, and he starts seeing her as a human more than she really is, that she's actually, you know, AI and not a human. And Logan is always messing with William because he's basically trying to explain to him that she's not human and it doesn't matter to him. They go on all kinds of adventures and end up in this town. You start to see that Dolores is remembering her previous time before that, which was 5 years ago. She starts remembering all the different things and starts going through the stuff. They have these great adventures, all kinds of wild things are happening. You know, the gunfights, and they got to the huge party. They're looking for Lonzo at the end, where he's like the big Easter egg that you're looking for, the big gangster. He ends up kind of being a major player that looks for. That's who the Man in Black is looking for at the current timeline. He's looking for Lonzo, who's like the main player, one of the main hosts in the middle ground. So they're all going towards the middle and trying to figure out this whole thing. Where William and Logan don't know is that kind of Dolores is guiding them, not unselfconsciously, towards this whole middle of the maze thing. He actually eventually takes. She eventually takes William to that small town where the maze ends, and you find out later, because there's some stuff that'll be later at the end, that she takes him to this. She takes him there, and this is where they get broken up. They have like this basically Logan and William start butting heads at some point because William is white hat and Logan is black hat, and they're not getting along. And Logan wants him to run wild and really fill the park, and William's still trying to be the good guy. So Logan gets double-crossed, ends up getting captured by Lonzo and his guys, and Dolores and William run off and they have their little fun adventure. But then he kind of gets then they get separated. Lo and behold, like the next day, Logan runs back into Dolores and William and ends up like kind of capturing them and then showing William that she is an android by cutting her open. Dolores snaps because she starts remembering from her previous 5 years ago, and the crazy thing she does, starts stabbing everybody and gets away and breaks free, and then she goes off and continues on to her journey with the maze, and William and Logan are left off to their side, and then I'll show you where it ends to. But basically, she was retracing the steps from 5 years previous that were taking her onto the journey to the middle of the maze, because she was trying to find the maze again, and she didn't realize that she was trying to find, but subconsciously her mind and what the codes were put in are making her do that. And William got separated from her and doesn't know where he's at. We'll get to the end where that is, but they come to William and Logan meet back up at the end, and it gets a little funky towards what happens with them, and I'll explain that in the end part. But yeah, that's basically the gist. It's Dolores taking William and Logan on an adventure through the maze that they didn't realize they were on the adventure looking for the maze. So that's a 30 years old timeline. In this whole thing, in the 30 timeline, in episode 5, they actually have a part where Logan starts telling William while they're actually here, and that this park is hemorrhaging money, and that they're thinking about investing in this park because they like the actions that are going on. And they said, "Did you know?" And Logan tells William, "Did you know this place had there was 2 guys that created this place, and one died right before the park opened." He goes, "Well, who's the other guy?" He goes, "I have no idea. All the information is gone. Nobody has any picture of him." So that's the mysterious Arnold that nobody knows about him. He was the co-creator of the park, and he died mysteriously before this park opened. And I'll tell you how he got there at the end. So there's a smaller timeline area where basically it's all the different conversations that we see Bernard and Dolores having, which Bernard that we think it's Bernard and Dolores conversations, and Bernard and Dolores are having conversations in this one room, sitting across from each other, and Bernard is asking her a series of questions and looking for her different responses, and he's kind of trying to unlock her self-consciousness in this whole time. You really don't know what's going on, but it's actually Arnold having conversations with Dolores, and he's trying to unlock her self-conscious, and he's testing her with different questions and trying to see her responses, and then asking for analysis on why she answered with all those different responses. It's a very unique, cool little thing that they do on the side. The other little small storyline that you really don't know until the end is the 35 years ago storyline. In the 35 years ago storyline, this is when Arnold sent Dolores off on the original mission to look for the maze. So he told Dolores one day, I want you to go on a journey and try to find this maze, and he gave her this map. She started in Sweetwater and then went on this mission and ended up all the way back at this church where it all ends. And I'll give you the answers to all that at the end piece, but that's the last little part, the part that basically she's redoing at the 30-year mark, which is with William and Logan, and at the current day mark, which she's doing by herself, where the Man in Black is trying to find it, but Dolores is on her own little mission to get there too. All right, you still with me? I know, this show, it's wild and crazy. It's got a... All right, here's the incident, the maze finale, and the end. It's all here. All right, so the incident. The incident happened 35 years ago. It all is about the maze. So Arnold sent Miss Dolores on a mission to find this maze and find the center of the maze. She ends up completing this maze. The maze ends inside of the church, where she goes into the pew and ends up going down an elevator and ends up basically back in a smaller private office where Arnold is, and they meet up and have their conversation. So this Dolores makes this trip all the different times and continuously makes this trip at different times and meets Bernard there. Arnold there, not Bernard, Arnold there. And when Arnold asks Dolores what she found, she says, all I found was pain and tragedy, and that's exactly what he's hoping for, because to unlock your self-conscious and to be human is to have tragedy and pain. I mean, that's the whole gist about it. So that's the completion. But what he really wanted for her to complete this was he asked her for something. He asked her to kill the other host and then to kill him. He never wanted this park open. He wanted this park shut down before it was open. He did not like what he created, and he wanted this thing shut down. So he told Dolores to go get Teddy and to kill all the different hosts so that this park won't open up, and then you will be free. So Teddy and Dolores, who was actually Wyatt at the end, because this is the whole thing, this mystical Wyatt character that you're looking for is actually Dolores, because she's the original Wyatt. Dolores and Teddy kill all these hosts 35 years ago in the original incident, and then at the end of it, Bernard walks out and Dolores shoots him in the back of the head, hoping that this would kill the park. Obviously, this does not, because the park still opens and Ford continues forward, and that's when you meet up at the 30-year mark when William and Logan are there and going to the park, and they talk about the things that happened, but they don't know the true nature of the incident. So that's the main incident that happens at the end of the park, and that's the main thing. So that's basically the completion of the maze. The Man in Black is on this mission looking for this maze, but he doesn't realize that the maze was created for the host to unlock their self-consciousness so that they can be self-aware and try to get out of this park and be free. The Man in Black thinks there's a deeper meaning to it, where he wants more feelings to it, and that's what he finds at the end, that he realizes that this maze at the end is not exactly what he thought it was going to be, but his story kind of goes to a different area. So we'll get to that. Let me get to the William and Logan. So William and Logan, so after William can't find Dolores, and he's basically, Dolores is freed, and he ends up killing all the different people. William ends up snapping at the end and really embracing this park. And what you come to find out is that William and the Man in Black are the exact same person. And we're watching the Man in Black's first ever trip into the park that turned him and changed him into the Man in Black. There's also a scene at the end where William picks up the black hat and puts it on his head and finally makes the transformation. It took him to go on that mission with Dolores and go through the whole maze for him to convert over into the Man in Black. He then ties his brother-in-law up on a horse naked and slaps him and tells him to go out. Obviously, I'm assuming he gets away, but that's how William ends it. The other connection that he has is there's a picture that Dolores' father picks up at the beginning. Mr. Abernathy picks up and starts tweaking out on, and that picture is actually William's wife that he left in the park years ago, kind of like he left his wife for the park and Dolores, and this is his new true love, and that's what meant more to him, and that's what ends up hurting him at the end, because his wife supposedly committed suicide because he was such a horrible person towards him, because he was such in love with this park and everything that happened. So that's one big thing. All right, so let's get to the rest. So now in the current time, you have Maeve. Maeve has become self-aware and is starting to build an army. So now she's starting to gather hosts from around the park so she can build an army so she can get herself out of this park. They can all become self-aware with the help of Felix and Sylvester, the technicians, and then they can get out. This ends up coming to fruition. Maeve collects Hector and a couple of the other main killer people. They end up in the outside of the park, run around, going through, killing humans, and actually making deaths. And just when you think Maeve's gonna get away, she doesn't. She's supposed to get on the train, but she doesn't end up getting on the train. She ends up staying because she keeps thinking about her daughter, because that memory won't let her leave without her daughter. So now we're gonna have to wait till season 2 to see what happens. The other crazy part that we find out with Maeve, what she's going through, is there's more parks. All of a sudden, we stumble across an old samurai soldier, and you're like, whoa! And that's just bigger for season 2 because there's more to come. So we will get to that in season 2. During this whole time, we also find out that Bernard is Arnold. Bernard is actually a host created by Dr. Ford because he missed his old partner so much that he created him and made him in the vein of his partner Arnold, but gave him the name Bernard. And that's why Bernard can't see certain things and other things. But he's also controlled by Ford, and being controlled by Ford, he ends up killing Teresa and Elsa. I mean, which is just absolutely horrible things that he does, and he ends up shooting himself in the head and thinking he dies, but Maeve ends up reviving him towards the end and coming back. So while all that's going on, Ford has put this huge brand new storyline into play that you think is just about Dolores and Teddy and this new love and rekindling the old stuff. No. He figured out a way for all of the different hosts to become self-conscious and to actually hurt and attack people and the human beings. So at the end, you got Dr. Ford going out just like Arnold, and Dolores shoots him in the back of the head. The one thing, though, is before that, you see that they're building another kind of host inside of the down area. So I don't know if that was real Ford or host Ford. I don't know. That's just a mystery. You never know. It could be so. But he ends up getting shot by Dolores, and now all the different hosts start coming into this party. So they have this big party at the end when his story ends, and it's all corporate, and all the corporate's there. Delios, you got the Man in Black, you got Charlotte's there, and they're all there about this party and toasting to Ford and his new narrative, and they're basically going to push him out at the end, and he tricks them all. He ends up getting killed at the end, and then these hosts come in and start to capture these humans and take over. And the best thing you get is you get the Man in Black at this party. He's sitting outside smoking a heater and ends up getting shot, and he couldn't believe it because he's actually got blood dripping down his arm, and he gets this giant smile on his face because the one thing he's been waiting on is he's waiting on that real true challenge. I mean, he's been doing this for 30 years, and for this to become real, oh man, he's pumped and excited now. He's just got this big smile on his face, and you know more is going to happen. So, woo! Yeah, so, I mean, season 2 is wide open. The robots are taking over. They're self-aware. They're self-conscious. And now they're coming for blood. Who knows where this is going? This is going to be tons of fun. Woo! Enjoyed that video. That was a recap of Season 1 Westworld. Come back every week and we'll be recapping Season 2 week to week. You never know what you're going to see. All right. Till next time. Good night, Ted.